Greetings and welcome back to the channel, and in this video I'm going to be looking at a custom bushcraft knife by Stuart Mitchell. Right then, a little bit of history before I begin. Stuart Mitchell is one of the best knife makers in this country. I've had a couple of his knives in the past and the fit and finish on them was absolutely spot on. In fact, I remember thinking to myself, if I can get a knife to look as good as one of Stuart's, I'm on a winner. So he's a good maker, very good, with quite a pedigree. His father was a knife maker before him, Pat Mitchell, and there's an immense amount of Sheffield pedigree there, definitely. Now the knife has been given to me for evaluation by a friend of mine, and this isn't a standard one of his knives. This has been modified. Now I think the model is just called Stuart Mitchell Bushcrafter. If it's not, I'll put it on here now. A longer blade than I'm used to on a bushcrafter, and I think the handle has been modified to my friend's hand, and I gotta say, it's absolutely perfect. It's a really comfortable handle, very nice indeed. As I say, fit and finish is absolutely beautiful on it. The grind, I don't know if it's meant to be a Scandi grind, but it's more high Scandi with a secondary bevel. Now this knife has been used. It's still sharp, but it's not stupidly sharp. It does not shave. So maybe halfway through this video I'll put it on the diamonds just to get a little edge on it. Secondary bevel, very easy to sharpen anyway. Far easier than Scandi, which is an absolute pig to sharpen in the field. Spine sharp, so we'll be using a ferro rod. Steel is SF100, which is a high quality stainless. I'm not a fan of SF100, by the way, because one of the knives I had of Stuart years ago was in this steel and I found it quite difficult to sharpen. It didn't want to do what I wanted it to do. So that's my only gripe. The sheath, Stuart doesn't make his own sheaths, he ships them out, and this is made by Woodlander, England. It's perfect, can't fault it. Dangler, ferro rod holder, stitching is absolutely perfect. The rand is nice and clean. Sheath's great, can't fault the sheath, really nice. Good quality leather, smells good. Yes, very nice. Right, I've already got a fire going because I've been here a couple of hours. I'm going to section up some timber with my saw, my silky saw, and then I'm going to batten it down with this. I'm going to make kindling basically out of it, and I'm going to make some feather sticks and some shavings. So everything you will need to light the fire in the damp, basically. Now, one other thing this knife has got, which they don't usually come with, is a protruding tang, and my pal, who wants to remain nameless, requested this because he's got one of my tribute knives and he really liked the protruding tang, so we've got the protruding tang. Now I have tried this with a ferro rod because it is quite sharp. The only thing is I did make some ridges on my ferro rod, so I'm not going to use that to strike a ferro rod. I'll be using the spine. Right then, section some wood up. Now before I start, although this blade is slightly longer than I'm used to, I'm still not going to go through the centre. I'm going to come in at the side. That doesn't want to go through. I think sometimes it's just best to say, no, get it out before I get stuck. Right then, battening, great. That extra bit of length really helps, definitely. Making a fine kindling, I am used to putting my thumb on there because I don't usually have such a protruding guard there. So I didn't really need to do that, but because of the sharp edge, I did find it dug in. But really need to put my thumb there, although it does give better control. And maybe I would have flattened that off and rounded it a little bit. That's just nitpicking. So there's my splits and my smaller splits. Plenty to get a fire going. Now I need to make some shavings. Now unfortunately this wood is a little bit damp. I thought it was bone dry, it's not. So I've got a piece of spruce, I'm going to split that down and I'm going to make shavings with that. Sorry if you think that's cheating, but this is a little bit damp. I think it's only fair to try splitting without putting my thumb there. Well, I split that before I turned the camera back on and it was no problem at all. Let's go on the nasty end. Yes, I am confident that my hand is not going to slip down there, so I don't need... I'm fighting the urge not to put my thumb there, mine. But yeah, that's good. Now, I'm thinking to myself, if I had to categorise this knife, I'd call it more of a utility knife than a bushcraft knife. It's working just fine. Well, I've just got some really nice, perfect splits out of that. And if you watched my last video, I split the other half of this down with the Grand's Force axe, and it really didn't split that nice. But using this knife, it did. Shavings. Right, this is just about the most perfect feather stick I could have. As I said earlier, I haven't sharpened this since I had it, so let's see how it feathers. First thing I'm noticing, it isn't sharp enough. I think the angle on the secondary bevel is just about spot on, so I can't argue with that, but it does need sharpening. I don't think it's going to need much. I'm going to get my extra fine DMT out and I'm going to give it a little tickle with that, and then I'm going to strop it. Saying that, if I'm calling this a utility knife, I should be able to sharpen it up with a rod. We'll try that first. It's the easy option as well. And in my strange little brain, I do think to myself, a utility knife should be very easy to sharpen. This is an old Kershaw Diamond Rod which I've had for about 20 years. I don't use it that often. Probably because I don't use utility knives that often. I'm always on the Scandies. One thing with Stuart, he does make a lot of kitchen knives, top quality kitchen sets for people. I think that is probably his bread and butter. I don't know for sure, but I think so. I think that's why he uses this steel. Definitely sharper. Do a little bit extra on the tip. So when you tend to do this, you tend to miss the tip a bit. Yeah, that's definitely sharper. Let's try it again. No, what's actually worse? Plan B. I think I'll give it a bit first on the red and then go on the green. I won't bother showing you this is boring. Right, it's had a quick field sharpen and it should be a bit better now. Yeah, it's feeling better. But I will say again, I don't like this steel. I'm still not getting it to perform as it should. I think this needs to go on the stones at home. So that's one point against it. It's difficult to field sharpen. Let's try a different tack. well, doing it that way and being able to get more force into it, I am getting decent curls, but it's my brute force doing the work, not the edge, because the edge is just not good enough. You probably can't tell, but a lot of them feathers aren't clean. When you consider, if you watch my last video, I used the same piece of wood on the Scandi and they were coming off clean. So that is a big shame. Well, we'll call that the igniter stick. Now we'll do some rough ones. Same method. Right then, let's make some sparks. I'm going to use a light my fire because it's pretty much a standard ferro rod that most people use. I'm not saying everybody does, but most people do. Let's just try Mors Kochanski's method. Good. Well, I have no complaints with the spine for ferro rod lighting. It's excellent, it's just about perfect, to be honest with you. Let's try a bit of fat wood, some fat wood scrapings. Well, the spine is just about perfect for making scrapings and scraping a ferro rod. I cannot fault that spine. Now I'm going to do a little bit of carving, not a hell of a lot. Carving basically will show you if the grind is too thick for getting in tight spaces. That's all really. Now this is actually making hard work of that, so I'm just going to switch to my Scandi just to see if it's the consistency of the wood or the blade. Well, the Scandi did cut better, definitely 100%, but that Scandi is really, really sharp, and that isn't. And the reason that isn't sharp is the steel. Well, that's all I'm going to do on that. What I think, you probably know what I think by now. Sheath's lovely, can't fault that sheath, beautiful. Handle, super comfortable, love the handle. Length of the blade for a utility knife, just about perfect, great. I thought this was going to get on my nerves, but it didn't. It was actually okay. I didn't really try choking up on it. It just doesn't make any difference really. Fit and finish, perfect, beautiful. Two failings for this. Don't like the grind, I don't like the steel, and I think it's more to do with the steel than the grind, because I've used it before and I know it's a pig to sharpen, and I know a thing or two about sharpening. I've sharpened a lot of knives, right, and I would definitely not use that steel. Don't like it. I'm not a big fan of 12C27 either, and it reminds me of that, but a bit worse. I don't know what it is, the more knives you use, you get a feel for steel. And I just watched a video yesterday from a guy from Australia, Cedric and Ada, the channel is called, and he's a big knife nut. And because he's in Australia, he does not use Scandis because the wood's too hard. So it's convexes, secondary bevels, things like that. And he was saying the same thing, you get to know a steel. You can pick something up, use it and go, ooh, I don't like that. This steel, I do not like. Don't like it one bit. I think if I had to do anything to this, obviously change the steel, RWL34 or 3V or something. 3V can't get in the UK at the moment. I'm actually getting some shipped from Canada to do a custom order, and that's costing a fair bit, so 3V is difficult to get at the moment. I think I would have probably taken this sabre grind up a bit higher. Yeah, I think I would have taken it up a bit higher, because if you notice, the grind there and the grind there, there's a vast difference. There's a good 3mm difference there. It's not particularly even. I don't know if that's in the design. I haven't got a clue. I think if it had a better edge on it, I'm going to put a really nice edge on it on the big flat diamond stones at home before I send it back to my pal. Yes, grind needs to go up, steel needs to change, or a convex, a Scandi Vex. Scandi Vex may work well as well. Right, so unfortunately this is not a knife I would buy because of the steel and because of the grind, because I know this isn't a stock knife. This is a knife my pal has designed from the stock knife. So the stock knife could actually be perfect apart from this steel. That handle is really comfortable. You could use that all day. Nice knife, crap steel, not the grind for me. But if the steel was right, the grind would probably work a lot better. Thank you to my benefactor for sending me this. He wants to remain nameless, so he shall. And he sent me another knife with this as well. Something very special, which I'm really looking forward to playing with. And it ain't a cheap knife, trust me. It's my grail knife, basically. Right. Thanks for watching. I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your views. And I really appreciate a thumbs up. Until the next time, ta-ra. I got a piece of hazel here. Oh my god, look at the smoke. I need to blow the fire. Let's try a bit of, can't remember what it's called, start again. I hope this doesn't upset Stuart, because he's a nice guy, because we've dealt with each other in the past. But I've got to be honest about things. I'm not going to be one of these channels who just says the right thing to get free toys. Not interested, just want to say the truth.